Welcome to our channel Coins World History, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics in today's video. We're diving into the fascinating world of rare 1-cent coins, cause some of these coins are rare among collectors and are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest coins and their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video sell top 1. Today we have a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but is worth far more than its face value. We're talking about the 1960 United States 1-cent coin, an item that could potentially be worth thousands of dollars. Stick around as we unravel the story behind this fascinating coin and reveal just how much it's really worth. Now, when you think of a penny, what comes to mind most people would probably imagine a simple, copper-colored coin with a small face value. But not all pennies are created equal. In fact, some pennies are among the most sought-after collectors items in the world, and today's coin is a perfect example of that. The 1961-cent coin is not just any ordinary penny. It was minute during a crucial time in the history of the United States, a period that holds significant importance in terms of both coinage and the nation's economic climate. To understand why this particular penny is so valuable, we need to take a closer look at the historical context. In 1960, the U.S. was experiencing a time of transition. It was the tail end of the 1950s, a decade marked by prosperity and rapid industrial growth. The economy was booming, and the country was on the brink of a new era, with the 1960 presidential election looming. A coinage during this period was still largely dominated by designs from earlier years, and the minting processes were gradually evolving. What makes the 1960 penny so intriguing to collectors, though, is not just its historical significance, but the unique characteristics of the coin. You see, there's something about the 1960 penny that sets it apart from the millions of other pennies. Minted that year, this particular penny is known for its rare variety that can dramatically increase its value. There were two distinct versions of the 1961 cent coin. One was struck using a small date design, and the other a large date design. The difference between the two is subtle but significant. On the small date variety, the numbers in the year 1960 appear much smaller and closer together. Meanwhile, the large date variety features the digits with more spacing and noticeably larger numbers. The variation may sound minor, but in the world of coin collecting, these small differences can have a big impact on the coin's value. While the large date coins are more common, the small date variety is much rarer and is what collectors are specifically on the hunt for. In fact, finding a small date coin in mint condition is like stumbling upon a hidden treasure. Now let's talk about the design itself. On the obverse of the 1960 penny, you'll find a familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most iconic figures in American history. His portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner, has graced the penny since 1909, making it one of the longest-running designs in U.S. Corniche. The reverse side, which features the famous shield of wheat stalks, has also been a staple of the penny's design since 1909. However, it's worth noting that the design was about to change, with the famous Lincoln Memorial design taking over in 1959, just a year before this coin was minted. So, why does the 1960 small date penny command such a high price? The rarity of the small date version, combined with its historical significance, makes it highly desirable for collectors. But there's another factor that plays into its worth condition. The better preserved the coin, the higher its value. Coins that have been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition are much more valuable than those that have seen heavy circulation. This is especially true for rare variants, like the 1960 small date penny. Now let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. The price. A 1960 small date penny in excellent condition can fetch an impressive sum. In fact, if you happen to own one of these rare coins, in pristine condition, it could be worth as much as $75,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $75,000. It's hard to believe that a single penny, which many of us might overlook or toss aside, could be worth such a hefty amount. But that's the magic of rare coins. They hold a historical value that goes far beyond what meets the eye. Before you run to your coin jars to check for this gem, keep in mind that the 1960 small date pinion, mint condition, is incredibly rare. So unless you've carefully stored one away for decades, finding one of these could be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. To wrap things up, the 1961 cent coin is a perfect example of how something seemingly simple can hold immense value. The small date variety, combined with its historical significance and rarity, makes it a prized possession for any serious coin collector. So if you've got a collection of pennies lying around, it might just be worth your time to dig through them and see if you've stumbled upon a small date. 1960 penny that could be worth a small fortune. Top 2, we have a coin that's sure to surprise you. A 1961 United States 1-cent coin. At first glance, it might just seem like an ordinary penny. But as we dig into its history, rarity, and value, you'll see why. This seemingly simple coin can be worth a lot more than you think. Stick with us because we're about to reveal just how much this 1961 penny could be worth. When we think of pennies, we often don't give them a second thought. After all, they're small, they're common, and they're not worth much more than their face value. But in the world of numismatics, even the smallest coins can pack a big punch, and the 1961 penny is a perfect example of this. Now let's travel back in time to 1961. The United States was in the midst of a transformative period in history. The country was under the leadership of President John F. Kennedy, and the nation was beginning to experience significant social and cultural changes. It was a time of economic growth, but also a time of innovation. The 1961 penny, which was minted during this time, represents a moment in U.S. coinage history that many collectors find intriguing. The design of the 1961 penny is nothing new. It features the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that has graced the penny since 1909. On the reverse, we see the classic wheat stalks that adorned the penny until 1958. This design would soon be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959, but for 1961, the wheat design was still in circulation. It's a coin that evokes a sense of nostalgia for many, but there's something more that makes it special for collectors. The key to the 1961 penny's value lies in its rarity. In condition, unlike many coins that were mass-produced and circulated heavily, the 1961 penny is known for being more scarce in certain conditions. The most significant factor that influences the value of the 1961 penny is its well-preserved state. Coins that have been in circulation for decades tend to show wear and tear, but pennies that have remained in pristine, uncirculated condition are highly sought after by collectors. And that's where things get interesting. While most 1961 pennies can still be found in circulation today, a select few have survived the years in nearly flawless condition. These well-preserved pennies are much rarer than you might think, and that rarity drives up their value. A coin that's been carefully stored free from any visible scratches, dings, or discoloration is a treasure in the eyes of a numismatist. But that's not the only thing that makes the 1961 penny stand out. There's a specific variant of this coin that is especially valuable. The 1961 proof penny. Proof coins are specially made for collectors and have a much sharper, more detailed appearance compared to standard circulation coins. These coins are struck using a special minting process that produces a mirror-like finish, making them much more aesthetically appealing. Proof coins, especially those from the early 1960s, are among the most desirable for collectors. And the 1961 proof penny is no exception. Now, you might be wondering how much a 1961 penny could possibly be worth. In general, the value of a single coin depends on a few different factors, such as its condition, rarity, and any unique features. A regular 1961 penny in circulated condition may only be worth a few cents over its face value. However, if you're lucky enough to have an uncirculated, mint condition 1961 penny, or even better, a 1961 proof penny, you could be sitting on a small fortune. This is where it gets really exciting. If you happen to own a pristine, uncirculated 1961 penny, it could be worth a staggering $71,000. That's right, $71,000 for a single penny. It's hard to believe, but it just goes to show how much value can be hidden in coins that many people overlook. The 1961 penny, especially in excellent condition or as a proof coin, is a shining example of how rarity and preservation can turn a simple penny into a collector's dream. So, before you dismiss that old jar of pennies sitting in your drawer, it might be time to take a closer look. You could have a 1961 penny in your collection that is worth far more than just 1 cent. Keep an eye out for those well-preserved specimens, especially the proof coins, because they may be worth a small fortune. To sum it all up, The 1961 1-cent coin is a perfect example of how rarity, historical significance, and condition can combine to make a seemingly ordinary coin incredibly valuable. Whether it's a regular circulation penny or a rare proof version, this coin has earned its place among the prized possessions of serious coin collectors. So, if you've got a collection of pennies lying around, make sure to check for a 1961 gem. You never know, you might just have one that could be worth $71,000. Top 3, we're going to dive deep into a coin that may look simple at first, but is hiding a surprising value that will leave you amazed. We're talking about the 1966 United States 1-cent coin, also known as the penny. You might be wondering how a coin that's so common could possibly be worth so much. Well, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll be looking at your spare change in a whole new light. When we think of pennies, most of us don't give them a second thought. After all, they're one of the most common coins in circulation. But in the world of numismatics, pennies, especially from certain years, can be incredibly valuable. In the 1966 penny is one of those unsung heroes that has earned its place among the most sought-after coins for collectors. So, let's take a journey back to 1966. The United States was going through a period of significant change. The country was amidst the swinging 60s, a time of social and cultural revolution. The Vietnam War was at its height. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and the American landscape was evolving in ways that would shape the future. The 1966 penny was minted during this pivotal year, and despite its humble appearance, it holds a special place in the history of U.S. coinage. At first glance, the design of the 1966 penny looks pretty typical. On the front, we have the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The reverse side features the classic wheat stalks design, which had been in use since 1909, however. What makes the 1966 penny interesting is the story behind the minting process. In the subtle changes that occurred during that period, in 1966, the U.S. Mint was in the midst of transitioning its coinage, which would lead to the eventual replacement of the wheat design on the reverse of the penny. But what's especially intriguing about the 1966 penny is that there are certain variations of this coin that have become highly sought after by collectors. You see, in the mid-1960s, the U.S. Mint had to deal with a shortage of copper, which caused them to experiment with different materials. For their coins, as a result, some 1966 pennies were minted with a slightly different composition, making them rarer and more valuable. One of the most important aspects of this penny is its minting process. Unlike the years before it, the 1966 penny features some unique characteristics that make it stand out from the millions of other pennies produced. The composition of the 1966 penny, the method of production, and the level of detail on the coin all contribute to its collectible value. The real kicker, however, is in the condition of the coin. Just like any other rare coin, the 1966 penny's value is highly dependent on how well it has been preserved over the years. Coins that were circulated heavily often show signs of wear and tear, such as scratches, discoloration, or fading. But if you happen to have one of these pennies in mint condition, or even better, one that has been carefully stored in uncirculated condition, you're looking at a coin that could be worth far more than its face value. Now, you might be wondering, what makes this penny so valuable? Is it really worth something? Well, the short answer is yes. While a typical 1966 penny in circulated condition is worth only a few cents more than its face value, a 1966 penny in exceptional condition, especially if it has been stored well or kept as part of a proof set, can be worth significantly more. But here's where things get really exciting. If you happen to come across a 1966 penny, an uncirculated condition, or even better, one of the rare minting variants, you could be holding onto a coin worth an astonishing $68,000. That's right, $68,000 for a single penny. It's hard to imagine that something so small could hold so much value. But in the world of coin collecting, these rare finds are incredibly precious. What makes this even more impressive is that there are fewer of these coins available on the market today. Most of the 1966 pennies have been in circulation for decades, and finding one in excellent, uncirculated condition is becoming increasingly difficult. This rarity, combined with the historical significance of the coin, makes it highly desirable among collectors and investors alike. If you think about it, this penny is more than just a piece of currency. It's a piece of history, a coin that was minted during a time of great social and political change in the United States, and one that has survived decades to become a valuable treasure. And while most of us might just toss a penny into a jar or lose it in the couch cushions, the 1966 penny is a reminder that even the most overlooked pieces of currency can hold immense value. So, if you've got a jar of old pennies lying around, it might just be worth your time to take a closer look. You could be sitting on a rare gem without even knowing it, and who knows, that seemingly ordinary 1966 penny might just be worth $68,000. Before you head off to check your collection, be sure to remember that the condition of the coin is crucial. Only those in near-perfect or uncirculated condition will fetch such high prices. So if you happen to have one of these rare 1966 pennies, make sure to keep it in a safe place, as its value could skyrocket in the right market. Top 4, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare coins, and more specifically, a coin that may be sitting in your collection right now without you